So I'm here with Keya Chatterjee from WWF US, is that correct? Yep. And we've just kind of seen the Cannes press conference. You've been going over the developments in the first week. One of the questions that came up was about the integration of the Copenhagen Accord and the LCA text, and then the role of Bolivia as well. And of course they've submitted proposals on the back of the People's Climate Conference in Cochabamba. Now the initial reaction to the text in the first week from the ALBA grouping, the Latin American countries, was quite negative. What's the scope in this second week, when we see the second text come out, the second draft? Is this something that might rear its head again, do you think, or are we beyond this now? Is the text seen as fairly balanced?
Well, I think that negative is all relative. Last year in the negotiations, we saw a lot of blocking of text. So we saw a lot of situations where we would come to a meeting, we thought we were going to start talking about the text, and all of a sudden someone would say, no, we don't want to talk about this text, and everything would pause until parties figured out what it was they were planning to talk about. What we saw this time is a lot of countries raising concerns about the text and saying, we don't love it, this piece we don't like, this piece we don't like, we don't see ourselves in it as much as we'd like to, but no one blocked it. So I would actually say that even from the beginning of this meeting, the reactions to the text were very positive. Excuse me, sorry about that. So I think from here on out, we'll see a refining of this text, and I think that if the chair does her job in a very nuanced way, we'll be able to make the progress that we need. But it's a difficult job being chair. You have to listen really closely and take the temperature of the room. And sometimes when you don't even hear agreements, you have to kind of create agreements through your text. So a lot really does ride on the chair, and I think that this chair does seem to have the ability to take the temperature of the room. The way she's been working has been putting these questions each day in front of parties, and it's really elicited a lot of interesting conversation, and a lot of conversations that seem to be leading somewhere. So we have great hope that we will have a text that parties can agree on coming out of here. And I think it's important that we know that we really need a text coming out of here, because in the end these negotiations are about text. It's great to have people talking and communicating and agreeing on things, but there actually has to be something at the end of the day where they all say, yeah, we all agree to that piece of paper.
And in Copenhagen, I guess the benchmark for success was some kind of legally binding, fair, ambitious deal. Is it fair to say that the benchmark for success here is to get this draft text kind of agreed and get a real solid basis for negotiation in time for Cancun?
Yeah, we need to make sure that we lock some things in now and take a real step forward so that we can get to the next step. And I think that we still have that ambition of getting a fair, ambitious, and binding deal, and we realize now that we have got to take a step in that direction at each one of these meetings. There's 3 more weeks of meetings this year, and Cancun has to show us some real progress. So we do need to see a text coming out of this meeting, or else it's just hard to see what the next step is and the next step.
And just finally, there has been a lot of kind of procedural politics about where negotiations should take place, whether they should be in the Kyoto Protocol track or in the LCA agreement. But there's also been some kind of success stories in terms of the technical and the detail, and some progress with RED and adaptation, as we heard Salim mention in the Cannes press conference. So could you just give a couple of details? Where are we really moving forward now? Where are the success stories?
Well, I think the main success stories are in RED and adaptation at this point. I also think there's real potential to move forward on finance. Listening to the conversations about governance of finance in particular, there does seem to be an emerging consensus. We need a new fund. We need a new operating body. We need it to be focused on climate change. We need it to serve the needs of people who want to reduce deforestation, who want to prepare for the impacts, who want to reduce emissions. And so while there's disagreement still about whether or not there should be an executive board and what the role of that board should be, that's a relatively minor thing. So I would say that we have seen some real progress on governance of finance, and we'll be looking for that to be one of the outcomes coming out of Cancun, because we have seen enough progress that we think they should be able to lock in some elements there. On MRV, their measuring and reporting of emissions, we've also seen the discussions there move forward a bit here. So we're also hoping that those discussions will be sort of ripe enough to lock in as much as we can and keep discussing the things that maybe will need a little bit more time after Cancun.
Okay, so the kind of post-Copenhagen hangover seems to be disappearing. People are much more optimistic. Just to finish with, what scope is there for people at home watching, for people who want to get involved with campaigning and activism? Where do you think they can be most influential?
Generally, I think people can be most influential locally. We're still not at the point globally where people are voting on climate issues. And so I think the most important thing is for everybody who is in a situation where they can to hold their elected officials accountable, to ask them what their plans are, what they think about this issue. Are your own localities prepared for the impacts of climate change, or are they pretending this isn't happening? If your region is expecting more heavy downpours as a consequence of climate change, have people actually made a plan for that? Is there a new plan for the sewage system, for the water system? Are people taking this issue seriously? Because the more it's taken seriously at local issues, the more at the local level, the more it will have to be taken seriously at the national level, and the more it'll be taken seriously at the international level. And so it's really, really important that people just get personally engaged at these local levels, as well as trying everything they can to influence the international level. We certainly still need a lot more public mobilization. You look at the impacts of the oil spill in the U.S., for example, and it's there should be an international public outcry when we see things like this, and we're still not quite there. We don't quite see the public reacting in a very vocal and visceral way.
And they don't link it to conferences like this in Bonn. Certainly, there's seems to have been a bit of a disconnect between thousands of tons of oil going out into the ocean each day, and not associating that with thousands and thousands of tons going into the atmosphere each second.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really clear that oil is gross and dangerous and really horrible for the environment. And it's really kind of sad in a way that it takes a spill for people to see that, because even when it doesn't spill, it's gross and dangerous and really horrible for the environment. And so I think that it's important for people to start realizing that, and that actually has implications for the way people live. And the things they do day to day. Once people really start to internalize that this isn't something we should be using. This, I think if our ancestors in human civilization saw us today and saw how addicted we are to this stuff, and that no matter how bad and ugly it is, we just can't seem to figure out how to get off on it, they would just be shaking their heads and just thinking, what did they do? How did they get themselves so addicted to this? And so I think that that's something we need more people to realize and understand and be talking about. And once you do that, that has implications for the way each of us lives, the way our localities govern themselves, the way we govern ourselves at the national level, the kinds of infrastructure we decide to invest in and take part in. And it's quite far-reaching, and there really is a positive vision of the future that we all need to be working towards now, and that, again, we have the technologies to do it, we have the money to do it. Certainly we just need to stop putting it into oil and start putting it into the things that benefit us. Right now we're paying twice for everything. We're subsidizing the oil, we're paying for the oil, and then we're paying to clean up the oil. We're paying to clean it up literally, and then figuratively we're paying to clean it up because we're paying to clean up the mess from increased storm intensity, heavier downpours, heat waves. We're paying for all of this. And so we just need to be making smart political decisions.
Keya, thanks very much for joining us. It's been great talking to you, and hopefully we'll catch you later in the week.
Thank you.